Good morning. Y'all, it is so good to be with you. My name is John Kinney. I'm the senior pastor here. I want to welcome you in the house. If you're in the house, if you're in overflow, we're glad you're there. If you're watching online or checking this message out at another time, we're just really glad to have all of you with us today. I want you to imagine something with me, all right? Have you had your coffee? Are you awake enough to imagine something? Here's what I want you to imagine. You have a house guest in your home. Now, some of you are like, I do. I need to go clean up. I did not know that they were there. All right, you have a house guest in your home. And I want you to imagine it's tomorrow morning, all right? It's Monday morning. You've got this house guest in your home, and they wake up before you. And they go and they get the coffee going. This is a good house guest, all right? They know what kind of coffee you like, so they get the creamer or the sugar, or they keep it black, however you want it. You know, they know you. And so they get their coffee ready, they get your coffee ready, you're still in bed. They take the coffee over to your favorite spot. Maybe it's a sofa or a chair. You guys know the one I'm talking about. You can imagine that in your house, the comfy spot. Maybe they get a blanket ready for you. It's been cold, right? They get the fire going. If you have a fireplace in that area, or they turn the heat up. And again, you're still kind of in bed stirring, and then finally you get up. And you run out and you're getting ready, and you pull out your phone, you're like, what do I have to do today? And you start the scrolling. I mean, you get on Facebook, there's mine. There we are. I mean, right? You check your email while you're doing your hair. Like, I don't have that problem, but that's right. I do have to do my hair, believe it or not. It's just shave my head. But anyway, it takes a minute. But you're getting ready and you're thinking of all these things that you got to do, and your day's already getting away from you, and you run out and your house guest is there, and you're like, oh. And you pass them by and you're like, I'm going to grab coffee on the way to work. Or car line, I got to get the kids ready. I got just all this stuff I got to take care of, I got to do. And you run out the door, leaving your house guest sitting there. They've prepped things for you. They wanted to talk to you. They wanted to connect with you, right? You got this house guest in your home. And then tomorrow, Tuesday, all right, that's not tomorrow, but if it's tomorrow, Tuesday, they do the same thing. Wednesday, they do the same thing. You're like, when is this house guest going to leave? They never leave, because guess what? This house guest is Jesus. And that's what he does every single day. Jesus shows up to be in a relationship with you and with me, and he waits for you to show up too, right? I want you to just imagine what that's like, and you're like, I've never heard it said that way. Like, Jesus wants to show up in a relationship? Yeah, maybe if you're not a Christian, you're here today, you're not following Jesus, or you're checking this out online, you're like, hey, somebody told me at this church, you guys talk about Jesus and what it means to have a relationship with him. You're like, I've never heard it said that way. I thought it was just like he wants me to follow a bunch of rules and do a bunch of things. You're telling me he wants to spend time with me? He wants to be in a relationship with me? Yeah, that's what he wants. And so if you're not a Christian, if you're not a follower of Jesus, you know what? I hope that draws you closer to God, because I'm here to tell you, he wants to be with you. He wants to spend time with you. He shows up every day. Jesus always shows up to be in a relationship with you. It's whether or not we'll show up too. That's a part of that. And if you are a Christian, if you follow Jesus, right? If you do that, and I know a lot of you do that, and we're followers of Jesus, not everybody in the room, not everybody listening, but a lot of you, I follow Jesus, I'm a Christian. I want to remind you, because we can lose it sometimes, right? We can lose the reality that the thing that God wants most from us is to know us and for us to know him, to be in a relationship with him. This series we're in, called Practicing the Way, is all about knowing God and being known by God. It's about becoming like Jesus. It's about doing the things that Jesus did. And the first week of this series, as I introed this series, I used another word for being a disciple or a follower or a Christian. If you're new here, this may be a totally new word. You've probably heard this word, but you've never thought of it as it relates to following Jesus. We've been saying that discipleship is apprenticeship. right? Because Jesus was a first century rabbi when he came into this world. I've just been blown away. I hadn't thought deeply enough about it, that God could have come into the world in any system, any culture. He came into the Jewish culture. He came as a Jewish man. God did in Christ. And he used the rabbinical apprentice system to teach us what it means to know him and to be known by him. And see, they had rabbis, which meant they were your master and your teacher. The word rabbi means master. And so if Jesus is your rabbi, Jesus is your master and teacher. And we are his followers. We are his disciples. We are Christians. I don't love that word. It's okay to use it. To say I'm a Christian, but no, if you, young people at school tomorrow, if you're like, hey, I'm an apprentice of Jesus, people are going to look at you funny. But if you say you're a Christian, oh, that's cool. I go to church too. That's what people say. But I'm an apprentice. Jesus is my Lord and master and teacher, and I fall under him and what he wants me to know, who he wants me to be. It's a way of life. It's a way of living, to be an apprentice, a follower of Jesus. And what we've been saying so far in this series, and Pastor Unique opened it up last week, was there are 3 goals of apprenticeship. This was true in first century Jewish culture for all rabbis and apprentices, so Jesus used the same thing. The first goal is to be with the rabbi. For us, that is be with Jesus. All right, that's the first goal, is for you to spend time with the one who wants to spend time with you. That's why I say he's a house guest in your life, in your home. He shows up every day to spend time with you. And if you are an apprentice of Jesus, you have to spend time with the master, with the teacher, with the rabbi. And so being with Jesus is so important. Spiritual formation begins. Discipleship is about becoming like Jesus, yes, and doing things Jesus did, but don't miss this. It all begins with being with Jesus first. Before you can ever become like Jesus, have his character, right? Before you can ever do things that Jesus did, we're going to talk about that. Before you can do things that Jesus did, do things for Jesus, the first part of it, the first part of apprenticeship is making sure that we spend time with Jesus, which again is why every day he initiates a relationship with you. He gets up, well, he doesn't, the Bible says he neither slumbers nor sleeps. Y'all was tired, I didn't sleep well last night. I drank coffee, if I seem a little, I had a 5-hour energy this morning, like I am. God don't need those. The Bible says he just doesn't even have to sleep. I mean, he's God, right? So he doesn't even get up, but as soon as you get up, he's there waiting for you. He doesn't want you to start with the phone. He wants you to start with him, the first thing on your mind, him, the thing when you lay your head down at night, him, thanking him for the day and the things that happen. That's why I said he's like a house guest in your home. And before we ever want it, before we ever respond to a relationship with him, he initiates that relationship with us. Even if you ignore him or just give him the, maybe tomorrow as you walk by him to go get your coffee at, I showed up this morning, they were like, we got your mobile order, John. I didn't even have to say anything. I didn't realize there was a camera in that thing, right? And they're looking at me, John, we got your mobile order. Like every day. Right before you do that, he wants to spend time with you. Last week, Pastor Unique opened this idea up of being with Jesus, and he used the word connection. If you were here, if you missed that message, you need to go back and hear it. He talked about some of the things that disrupt the connection and, cause interference, our connection with God. There's lots of things in this world that can do that. But he talked about this whole idea of God wanting to be with us as God wanting to connect with us. And Jesus talked about connection with him and with God and spending time with him and being with him in a conversation he had with his 12 apprentices in the first century. So in John chapter 15, Unique talked about this last week. I just want to read a couple of verses to remind you of what John chapter 15 said. It talks about abiding with Jesus. That's the language Jesus used. John chapter 15 began at verse 4. Jesus is talking to his apprentices. He says, abide in me, and I in you. And then he compares, he says, it's like a branch cannot bear fruit of itself, right? Unless it abides or is connected to the vine. Neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, not you, right? I am the vine. You are the branches on the vine. He or she who abides in me and I in him or her bears much fruit, for without me, you can't do anything. That's just a short portion of what he said. You should check out John chapter 15. If you want to read it in context, you should read John 14, 15, and 16. Those three chapters go together. It's called the farewell discourse. Jesus is getting ready to leave this world. And he's like, I'm leaving my spirit with you. It's going to be really important that you connect with me every day. Abide in me. Before you try to do anything, before you try to get out there and make impact, because we talk about impact. I said at the beginning of this year, I want to be a church who makes impact. Our mission statement is to make disciples who make impact. We want you to make disciples. We want you to make impact as disciples of Jesus, which can mean making other disciples. But friends, before you do any of that, Jesus is like, none of that happens apart from me. You're just spinning your wheels, doing religious stuff if you're not connected to me, if you're not abiding in me, if you're not spending time with me. This concept is so important. You can see the number of times it says abide just right here in these two verses. But in John chapter 15, Jesus uses the word abide 10 times. It's like so important to him. He's emphasizing this reality that abiding in him and connecting with him and remaining in him and this whole idea of spending time with him as the rabbi, as the teacher, as the master, as the Lord is so very important that we shouldn't just pass our house guests by in the morning. That we've got to be connected in a relationship with Jesus if we ever want to do anything in this world, and especially make impact that is eternal and lasting. So I want to pause here. I want to make it personal. I want to ask you a question. Here's my question. I'll put it on screen. How is your connection with Jesus right now? Like right now, right here today. How would you say you're doing with Jesus? Now, just kind of think on that for a moment. Maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, I ain't spending no time with Jesus. If you're not a Christian, you're like, you want me to spend time with Jesus? I'm not a Christian. No, you're not on the hook for that, right? You haven't decided if that's something you want to do, right? But I'm telling you, he still wants to spend time with you. Even if you don't want to spend time with him, if you ignore him, if you deny he exists, he wants to spend time with you. I know that sounds crazy, right? But here's the thing. Maybe you are a Christian, you are a follower of Jesus, and you've gotten away from that idea. You've forgotten that the number one thing he wants for you is to spend time with you, to be with him, because he wants to be the one shaping you, forming you. Man, we talk about identity so much in our world right now. Talk about identity politics and identity this and identity that. And, Jesus wants to give you your identity. He made you. He knows what you're made for in this world. And so he wants to shape you. He wants to form you. We've already said that everybody's being formed by something, right? Whether you recognize that or not, you are in the process of formation. You're either letting something else form you or you're letting Jesus form you, and you can't let him form you if you're not willing to spend time with him. I would say that for most of us, as I talk about this, all kinds of feelings rise up. Guilt, like, I'm not doing that, but there's that kind of stuff. I'll talk about that in a minute. But most of us in the room probably want what I'm talking about. I would say it's a desire that you have, especially if you're a Christian. You're like, I need to spend time. You would say, I need to spend time with Jesus. I need to stop passing my house guest by every day, who's there, showing up every single day, whether I show up or not. Jesus never misses a day, by the way. He doesn't miss, not even Sunday. Like, he just never misses a day. Like, he's got work to do on Sunday. A lot of churches open and stuff, right? Like, he doesn't miss a day. He always wants to spend time with you every single day. So I think most of us want or wish for what I'm talking about. We're just not doing it. We're not spending that time in a relationship with Jesus. And I think I know why. Isn't this the reason why we're already abiding in other things? So this idea of abiding in Jesus, connecting with Jesus, being in a relationship with Jesus, the reason most of us would say I'm not doing it or I can't do it is I'm already abiding in other things. And you might say, well, I never thought of it as abiding. Well, if abiding is connecting with something a lot, then we're already abiding in other things. There's all kinds of things we abide in, some good, some bad, some kind of neutral. Let me list some for you, some things that I think we abide in. Work. I am a work person. Work is, I find my identity in work. It's just something that I do. It's something I've struggled with my whole life, this idea of performance and making people like me and blah, blah, blah. So work can be something that you abide in, something that it can be the thing. It's the excuse we use for not spending time with Jesus. I just got to get to work. John, that house is going to have to get up really early. Like, he does. He's ready for you whenever it is, right? But work can be something that we abide in or connect with. Hobbies, any of y'all got some of those? Man, you going to tell me I can't do my hobbies? No. I'm just talking about the things we abide in that keep us, I think, sometimes, very often, from abiding in Jesus. Social media. I mean, you ever gotten the little thing that tells you how long you've been on there, and you're like, that can't be right? I'm like, don't let is my wife, can she see that? Like, or an hour goes by and you've been they call it death scrolling now. Like liking things. My kids are so fast at it, it's insane. I'm like, how are you? I can't even see what you're doing. Or if we're trying to watch a Netflix movie or something, I'm like, can you slow down? I can't even see what movies are there. Y'all are amazing. Like, I don't know, I'm getting old and slow, but I'm like, I mean, my daughters especially, like, gotta like everything, Dad. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I mean, some of us, we're spending a lot of time on, am I saying social media is good or bad? I'm not saying anything about it. I'm just saying it's what many of us, that's what we're connecting with. And we use that as I'm just trying to help us see we got some time. We're just spending it in other places. Politics, can I talk about that this week? Man, some of the 24-hour news cycle and stuff now, and I got to just tell you, for some of us, I see us posting this and that, and if I were to just look at your life, I'd go, your whole life is about politics. How much time are you spending? Well, I mean, we got work to do. We got things. There's things in this country that are going wrong. There's things in this country going right. Some of you are happy about what's going on. Some of you are not happy about what's going on right now. I'm not here to talk about either of those except to say, why are you spending all your time there? You need to be spending your time with Jesus. Don't let politics shape you first. Let Jesus shape you. That will inform your politics and all of those other things. And by the way, help you love people, because we right now are having a hard time loving people that think differently than us. And I will tell you, that's a direct result, I think, of how much time we spend with Jesus. Many of us are attaching our politics to our Jesus and deciding he's this or he's that. Be careful with that. Ask him about that, not me. Sports, anybody like sports? My team lost yesterday. They killed me. Y'all know, we're playing Tennessee on Tuesday. Oh, this is basketball, by the way. I'm coming for you, Billy Hughes. My Tennessee friends. I mean, man, I get it, right? I abide in UK basketball starting in October. I just do. I just love it, right? So, nothing wrong with sports. It's just sometimes that's what we're spending our time with. Addictions. Some of us have addictions. And we spend a lot of time in those. They take over our lives. Relationships. John, are you saying relationships are bad? No, I'm just talking about where we spend our time. Some of us are married. Guess what? You got to pay attention to your marriage if you want it to last. Some of you have kids. Anybody got kids? Like you know they take time and energy and stuff, right? Like all these things take time and energy. Money. Some of us, you're so worried. Oh my gosh, with the things that are going on, I know there's inflation and all this kind of stuff. We got to save more money. I got to make more money. Church stuff. Some of us are doing church stuff, but we're not spending time with Jesus. Like, it's so easy for this to be. My job is church stuff. That doesn't mean I spend time with Jesus, trust me. I hope you want me to spend time with Jesus as the pastor before I do church stuff, right? It's important. And then I don't know, what else is there? We could fill the screen with the things that we abide in, right? So these things take our time. all of those things take our time and energy and focus. Some of them are good, some of them are not so good, right? You can have great relationships, people you should spend time with. You could have, some of you are spending time, some of us are spending time in relationships that are dragging us down. We're not pulling them up. We might have used that as the excuse. I'm here to pull the person up, and they're really pulling you down, right? Addictions, most of those are bad. Not all, if you have an addiction to Jesus and serving at the church and stuff, God be with you. Right? We love you, but most of the time when we talk about addiction, it's not a good thing, right? I've had an addiction. It wasn't a good thing in my life. It took a lot of time and energy and focus and was tearing me down. Some of you know what I'm talking about. But when we abide in these things, when we connect with these things, what I want to remind you of is all of those things are shaping you and forming you. They are the things that are giving you your identity. And those are the things that we are using as an excuse to not spend time with Jesus. We're like, I'm just abiding. Remember, I said the reason most of us desire Jesus and want Jesus and all, but we're not actually spending time being with Jesus is because we're abiding in other things. Jesus had some tough stuff. I just thought about this. Like, he'd call people to follow him, and somebody would say to him, this is in the Bible, you can read this. This is hard stuff. They said, well, hold on, I got to go take care of some business first. And he'd say, you can't follow me. Or somebody would say, I've got to go bury this person in my family who just died. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to be your priority. Like, he's like, right now, I want you to be with me. I know it can sound like he's not trying to say we shouldn't take care of our business and stuff like that. He's just saying if taking care of your business and all precedes and is before him, it's so easy to let him go from here to here to here to here to where'd he go? Y'all know what I'm saying? Like, this is just reality. Jesus knew about these other things right here. He knew about this. And he knew we'd struggle with it. And so he said something real powerful in Matthew's gospel. Some of you know the scriptures. It's a good one to know and to even memorize. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, look what Jesus said. He goes, seek first the kingdom of God. This is Jesus talking. And his righteousness. And all these other things will be added to you. What he's saying here is make me the priority of your life. Spend time with me. Be with me. And all the other things will be added to you. You'll have them. You're not going to lose your marriage if you spend time with me. You're not going to lose a relationship. You're not going to, and I know sometimes you go, well, I have spent time with Jesus and I did lose something. I get that, but what Jesus is saying is you're going to need me then if you lose it. He's just like, it's so important to make me the priority. Now, why does Jesus want to be the priority, man? Is he just a jerk like that? Like, I want to be your best friend. You ain't allowed to have no other best friend. Sometimes don't you go, come on, Jesus, there's so much I got to do. I know I'm abiding in these things, but man, are you jealous or something? Like what? The Bible does speak about God being jealous because he loves us and wants to be in relationship with us. But here's why Jesus wants to be priority for you. I already said this, but he knows what's best for you. He knows who you are. He knows what you're made for because he made you. And if you skip out on that, you're looking for, why am I here? Why do I exist? What gives me meaning? And you're looking for it, abiding in all. Oh, money, I like money. It gives me pleasure. And in the end, you go, it doesn't give me pleasure. And all the stars that have millions and billions, don't they always say money? And I'm always like, I'd like to test that theory. Because they say it won't make you happy or whatever, but you're like, yeah, well, it's easy for you to say, like, come on, man. But isn't that interesting? You kind of go, all right, money didn't make them happy. And so maybe Jesus knows something, that he needs to be the priority. Before any other thing, he needs to be the priority. And not only that, it's not just that he made us and he knows what we're here for. It's also that Jesus, when he's the priority, when you're connecting with him, he'll help you disconnect from things you don't need to be connected to. I think, I'm just going to say something. This is pushing in. This is a challenge. It's going to step on some toes. I'm warning you, so you might want to close your ears if you don't want to be challenged. Being connected to bad or unhealthy things is a sign that you're not connected to Jesus. When we're going the wrong way, it's usually because we're not spending time with Jesus. and letting him shape us and form us. But it's not as easy, is it, as saying, all right, Jesus, you're my priority. Like some of you, like, all right, fine, I'll make Jesus. It's not as easy, is it? It's just saying, Jesus, your priority, my priority. You're where I'm going to abide from here on out. I'm going to spend time with you, and you're going to make that commitment today. You're like, I'm doing it. I want to ask you, this is a deep probing question, I think. Have you ever thought about how you get to the point of something becoming a priority? You don't just decide it's going to be a priority. You're like, what? It's important. That's desire, want, all that. It starts with that. But how does something become something we abide in? I wrote this down. Abiding happens when something becomes a habit in my life. It doesn't start with abiding. It doesn't start with, this is my priority. You just start doing something. You desire something. And so you go after that thing, and you go after it again tomorrow, and the next day, and you repeat it over and over and over. And science teaches us that rewires your brain so that becomes the reason you pull out your phone before you even know it and start checking it is because you do it every day. It's a habit. One day you did it, and you're like, oh, yeah, and you did it the next day, and you did it the next day, and it's a habit. Priorities start by being a habit. It's not a priority first. And so it's not as easy as just deciding, I want Jesus to be the priority of my life. So here's what I want to suggest to you today. I want you to listen to what I'm about to say. I'm going to read it because I wrote it down. That's more than just, hey, make God a priority. Here's what I want to suggest to you. Instead of just, hey, I'm going to make God a priority, which I wrote down, often doesn't work, does it? How many times have you decided to make God a priority and he's not? And honestly causes you to leave today after listening, feeling guilty, bad, whatever, because he's not a priority, but you decided you want. I want to suggest this, that rather than making God a priority today, I know you're like, you don't want me to make him a priority? Listen, let's do this instead. Make God a habit. Then he'll become a priority. As you make him a habit, and that's what the book talks about, practicing the way some of you are reading and stuff. Making God a habit is how we make him a priority. So that, how can you live a life that when you wake up, you're thinking about God? Because if you're not doing that, you have not made him a habit. He's not a priority. You ain't going to wake up thinking about him tomorrow just because you decided he's a priority. You'll do it if you make him a habit. See, what this is it's moving from this idea of desire, which is important, to the harder part, discipline, habit making. And it takes some work to make that happen. That's why we call it spiritual formation and that. And so I want to turn now to the next part, and to close my message today is to turn to the practical. If you're here and you're like, I'm with you, I do desire that God would be the priority of my life. I want him to be first. He's not, or I'm struggling with this. I got to tell you, I'm struggling with this right now in some ways. I asked my wife yesterday, will you hold me accountable to something? And I'll share more about that in a moment. But I want to talk about how can we make God a habit, all right? So let's talk about turning God into a habit. There's 3 things I want to share with you that are very practical. These are the things that if you're like, all right, I do desire it, I want to make him a habit so that he becomes the priority of my life. Here's what you need to do. Let's first talk about space. You've got to create some margin or time in your life for God. Well, I'm abiding in other things. I know. So am I. But if you want to abide in God, desire is not enough. Wanting it is not enough. You've got to turn God into a habit so he becomes a priority. You've got to get disciplined. We make Christianity way too easy sometimes. It is not easy. Anybody that tells me, man, you follow Jesus, I wish I could follow Jesus like you, is so easy. I'm like, it is not easy. Not following Jesus is easy. Do whatever you want. I got to spend time with Jesus. I got to be like Jesus. I got to do what Jesus did, some of the things. But it all starts with spending time with Jesus, being with Jesus. I got to create space or time or margin. Habits take time. You notice that? Brushing your teeth, if that's a habit in your life, I hope it is. It takes time. I got some bad teeth years ago. They were like, try one of these toothbrushes. So I use this one toothbrush now. And because I always had cavities, I've had crowns, I've had all this stuff. Y'all, for a few years, you don't have to clap for me. I haven't had any cavities. And it was after I switched to this stinking toothbrush that it goes by itself. Because I was kind of doing I'm good. Well, it goes by itself, and every 30 seconds it buzzes. And I have to do it for 2 minutes. Sonic toothbrush. Look it up, man. This will help you. So you can spend time with Jesus. Yeah. It's a habit in my life. I don't think about whether or not to brush my teeth. I just do it every day. I've made it a habit. It's a priority. And now it's a priority for 2 minutes in the morning and 2 at night, man. I'm like, I even have a toothbrush at work. Just a regular one. But you got to create time. Here's what I would encourage you to do to create some space. When I talk about space, I'm talking about time. I'm talking about margin. Decide on a specific time. See, some of y'all are going to tune me out now. It's like, oh, you getting too, I want it, I desire it, but decide on a specific time. Yep, tomorrow, Monday, what time are you going to spend time with Jesus? If you're like, I'm ready to turn God into a habit, you better decide on a time for Monday. Because you know what's going to happen if you don't? Nothing. Your desire won't get you there. It won't, right? People walk in my office sometimes, married couples, they're like, what's the matter? Usually they're never dating. They're not dating anymore, spending time with each other. You guys know this about me. Sean and I go on a date every week. We went on a date yesterday. It's something we do every Saturday. We have a routine. It's habit. We just know it's going to happen. They're like, so I'm like, when's the last time you went on a date with your spouse? I want to. No, you don't. It ain't a habit. If you don't know when you did it, you don't want it. Amen. Or it's just a desire. But guess what, bro? Your wife wants you to take her on a date. She wants it to be a habit. I'm a little extra help there on that part. So decide on a time. And I would suggest this. Decide right now or today. And then do this. Put it on your calendar. Set an alarm or timer. I would suggest you do it in the morning. Start your day with it. It sets the tone for your day. I'm just suggesting that. If you can't do that, be careful with saying I can't do it. Try, right? And tell someone. This is real important. That's where I told Shauna, would you hold me accountable? What I told her to do is hold me accountable to starting my day at home with Jesus rather at work. I spend time with Jesus at home sometimes, at work sometimes, but it's something I do. But I was telling her, in this series, I want to get back to where it always starts at home. First thing, at home, before anything else, right? So creating space, and then tell somebody, right? So decide on a time right now, and then just tell somebody if you want to make God a habit, and you want to move from desire to discipline and making this work in your life. All right, this is for people who are like, I really want to be with Jesus. The one who wants to be with me. I want to show up when he's showing up for me. Then decide on a time that you're going to spend with him tomorrow and then the next day. And you see how that works? Create space intentionally. All right, second thing, place. It rhymes. I like it. What's the place? It's the physical space. Man, this is really important. You got little kids and stuff. Like, where's your place? Shauna and I both have places in our house. She has this reading nook upstairs. She's always there. All her stuff just sits there. We let each other's stuff sit there, right? I have a Bible and a pen and a journal and some other things that sit, a candle right in front of the fireplace. I like that spot. She likes the spot upstairs in the reading nook. She's got a blanket. It's cold right now. We are ready before we get there. Does that make sense? So putting a Bible there, some stuff like that is really, really important. What's the place you're going to meet with Jesus? And I think a specific place is really, really important. At home, at work, if you can find it. I designed a little spot into my office that I have a spinning chair, and I created a little space there where I can spend some time with Jesus, right? But where are you going to spend time with Jesus? Space is important in terms of the time and margin you have, but place is really important. Where are you going to do it? See, if you start doing this today, it's more likely that you're going to do it tomorrow if you think about it in your head. But if you wake up tomorrow and you're like, oh gosh, I know I said I wanted it, but I just got to get the day going. And you haven't created space, the time. If you haven't know where you're going to go in your house, then how's it going to happen, right? Do you have a Bible? Do you want one? We'll give you one. Let us know. We'll help you with that. Do a devotional. We actually have some resources. We put together a page. I want to thank Wes Roberts for doing that. If you go to thequestonline.com/practicing the way, I've loaded some resources there. Some of these are devotionals I like to use, and one of them is an online devotional, My Utmost for His Highest. There's one by a guy named Chris Tygreen. I just love that devotional. I think it's called At His Feet. I can't remember the title because I'm always in it, right? It's sitting at my spot. And it's also got some other things on there that you can use. So if you need some resources, we're trying to help you with some of those resources. All right, one more thing about making God a habit. If you want God to become a lifestyle, pace. You got to decide not just the space and the place, but the pace. How often are you going to... Pace is, the definition of pace, I wrote it down, is a rate of movement. So what's your rate of movement with Jesus? You going to spend time with him once a year? Once a month? Once a week? I'm going to suggest every day. Pace is really, really important, how much time you're going to spend with Jesus. All right, I'm going to share something with you. Science suggests that to make something a habit, you ready for this? Guess how many days it takes? It's probably not what you think, 66 days. Most people think it's 21. 21 days will help you, but most people... So I was trying to drink more water last year. It's past tense. Because I did it for 21 days, I was like, I'm locked in. And then like day 30, I dropped in. I'm not doing it. Sean was like, what happened to that water thing? I'm like, can we move on? 66 days. I read a book called The 5 a.m. Club. Some of you read it, not a Christian book. It's just about how to create good habits in your life by a guy named Robin Sharma. And he actually divides the 66 days into 3 parts. I want to share them with you real quick. Stage 1 is days 1 through 22. He calls that the hard stage of creating a habit. Remember, we're talking about spending time with Jesus. And you're like, it should just be more. If you're going to be like, this should be organic and natural, good luck to you. That's not how it works, man. You've got to be disciplined and say, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to create the space, I'm going to create the place, and I want this pace to be every day. What happens if I miss a day out of the 66? Give yourself grace and get up and do it again tomorrow. Don't be like, well, I failed, it's all over. I mean, you can start over if you want, but just get up and do it. It's not about, don't make it like that. That's religion. Make it about a relationship. I missed you yesterday, Jesus. He's not like, I know, I can't believe. No, he's like, man, it's good to see you again. Welcome back. Days 1 through 22 are just hard. Why? Because you're trying to create something new. You got other habits and things you're abiding in. You know this. Try to go to the gym if you're not going. Good luck. Right? Y'all, I bought this stuff at Costco the other day because I don't eat enough fruits and vegetables. It's this little super green, I don't know what it is. It's disgusting. It makes a green milkshake that looks like grass. And y'all, I'm like down in that. I'm like, I'm gonna make it's hard right now. I started thinking, by day 10, it ain't gonna taste as bad. By day, I gotta make it a part of my life, right? It's hard right now because I'm just starting. It'd be easy to just quit. So what do you do in this stage? Man, you get somebody to hold you accountable. What's it gonna take? Willpower. You wanna spend time with Jesus or not? Like, he wants to spend time with you. It's gonna be hard. Stage 2, messy. Days 23 to 44. Sharman calls this stage messy because in this stage, it's kind of one of those things where you're like, I got it. You've gone 21 days, I got it down. But then on day 38, you mess up, you forget it, you don't do it. Day 39, you skip 2 days, and you get confused. You're kind of like, do I really want to do this? The middle stage is the messy stage. It's like, I'm just not sure I'm going to make this happen or not. They say that in marathon running, it's like this. See, when a marathon runner has run halfway, but they still have halfway to go, they're like, why am I doing this? I used to be a runner. I didn't have to run a marathon, 5 miles for me. I was like, by mile 3, I'm like, why am I a runner? All my friends are sleeping. And here I am running this race. How do I just fall over? And some runners know what I'm talking about. How do I break my leg on purpose so I don't have to finish? I mean, you're going to hurt yourself to not finish the race. It's a messy stage to be in. All right, but then the last stage, check this out. Glorious. I love that. Glorious. Because when you get to this point, days 45 through 66, you have installed it and it's integrated into your life to the point that, watch this, you're not even thinking about it anymore. You don't think about brushing your teeth. It's installed and integrated into your life. Anything that you do that's a habit that's become a priority, you've installed it and integrated it into your life, haven't you? That's what we do. And so that's why he uses the term. I love the term. And he's not even a Christian, but he uses the term glorious, which, by the way, is a Christian Bible term. He's feeling something. It's glorious to do something good that you wanted in your life. I just think we can adopt this. And what's happening here, you don't want to miss this. God designed us the way he designed us. He designed our brains the way they work. You have to rewire your brain when it comes to habits. It is science as much as it is faith and spiritual stuff. It's spiritual, yes, but God knows that when you rewire your brain for him, and he helps you do that, you get that new way of thinking. I got to spend time with Jesus. It's like you're not going to miss it, right? Because you have a habit that's become a priority in your life. What Sharma, he came up with this word, it's kind of a fancy word, automaticity. He said, once you get to the glorious stage, it just keeps happening. Day 100 is just going to happen. Day 672 is just going to happen. It's a habit in your life, and so it's become a priority in your life. I love this quote that kind of sums it up. Sharma says, all change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and glorious at the end. If you're a person here and you're like, I want to make God a priority, I desire it, I want to create the discipline to get there, I'm telling you, man, 66 days is going to go by, isn't it, from today? Why delay? Don't start 66 days from now. In 66 days, it can be automatic if you start today. And I know some of you, this is new, and you're like, I'm not doing it. Others of you, I'm telling you, man, this is so important. If you want to be with Jesus, you've got to decide, I'm going to make God a habit. He will become a priority. He'll become a lifestyle in your life. I got to close, but sometimes people ask me, well, what do I do in that time? I mentioned some things, but I want to give you 4 things that you do when you spend time with Jesus. Read the Bible, read a devotional, pray, and journal. Those are, you got to do the first 2. Read the Bible, read the Bible and pray, man. Spend some time talking to God, listening to God. Read some scripture. If you're like, I don't know what to read, read Romans, read the book of John, any of the Gospels. Start in the New Testament. Read Luke and then Acts. Those 2 go together. I mean, just great stuff if you're like, where do I start? Don't do the whole, I'm just going to open the Bible and point to something. It's like, you know, and you get some crazy verse that you got to go shave your head or something. And, I do it, but I don't, you know. And I gave you some devotionals like that you can use on that. That's why I put that resources thing back up there. All right. Next several weeks, we're going to be talking about the next 2. All right. Become like Jesus and do as Jesus did. For these 2 weeks, today and last week, we talked about being with Jesus. But I don't want you to miss this because some of us want to move on to, I want to become like Jesus. I want to do things Jesus did. All right, the path to becoming like Jesus and doing what Jesus did begins with being with Jesus. You cannot become like him or do what he did if you don't want to become like him. All right, so tomorrow morning when you get up, there's a house guest in your home. Y'all with me? There's a house guest in your home. He's going to show up. I promise you. You are going to have to make your own coffee. I kind of fibbed about that. He doesn't do that part. But he's going to be there because he wants to spend time with you. Here's the question for me and for you. I'm going to close with this. Will I show up? Will I show up? If you're here today and you're like, oh man, I want this. It's a desire I have. I want to make God a priority. I want to pray for you. That you would give God your heart with this. That you'd let him have it. But I'm telling you, it's not about making him a priority if you're not doing that yet. It's about making him a habit. Then you'll make him a priority and a lifestyle. Can I pray for you? Jesus, thank you for my friends here. Some of them want to turn desire into discipline. They really do want a relationship with you. Maybe today they've realized you show up. And so God, they want to show up too. In these next few moments, will you help us not just to want it and desire it, but to create a discipline. Decide on a time. Decide on space. Decide on place. Decide we're going to do it every day. at least for the next 66. God, would you help us be that serious about following you so that we can make impact in this world for you? In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.